Bases dropped on the first Reaction Monday of 2024. John here, Matty Cruz on the ones and twos, you there. And it's our standard cavalcade of stars on a Monday. All right, so here's the rundown before we get into opening kickoff before our first guests show up. Abe Gordon and or Garrett Chapman from 92.9 The Game coming on at 9:15 after opening kickoff to talk about Atlanta United for 15 to 20 minutes. Remember, you can throw in all of your comments, Reaction Monday, over, under, on par. Throw them in the Twitch pitch. We'll talk about them most of the first hour. Hour number 2 starts with Bart Keeler, Soccer for USPOD. There's a new USPOD that is going to be posted to the network where Bart and For the Culture, FTCUTD, they go over all of the new jerseys for the 2024 season. So that'll be up later today. So Bart Keeler from the Soccer for USPOD joining us at 10 o'clock to talk women's national team, to talk the episode number 80, to talk reffing down here because there were a couple of incidents. And I wanted to get Bart's opinions on the replacement officials that we've seen so far. I thought they've done a pretty solid job across the board. And I mean center refs. Obviously, for the ARs and such, it's a bit of an adjustment with flags and such. So we'll get into that with Bart at 10. Drew Dickinson is on the road coming back from vacation. So hopefully we can do this with two hands on the wheel for Drew when we do Prem and Proper, the review at 10:30. So stacked show beyond stacked shows. So good morning, Alex. Morning, David. Morning, Dell. And morning, Abby. And wow, punching in early. I can't even get in opening kickoff. Actually, tell you what, I'm going to combine two things here. All right, so here we go. I'm going to bring Abe in. Abe got all the green lights. So Abe got all the green lights to get here to SDH this morning. No stoplights for Abe, no nothing. And so, as always, my friend, it is great to have you here on a Monday. Before we get into Atlanta United, since you got all the green lights, we're going to do opening kickoff. And it's brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. There's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch, on YouTube, or on the 280-character app. And it blocks out all the screen. And so there you go. That's the QR code for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That you click on, you can get your Kickoff Coffee. Don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvested into the youth game youth initiatives that they have earmarked. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So Abe got all the green lights in. Maddie is in the green room. I'm bringing in Jarrett here to kick things off with Abe. But, Jarrett, we're doing opening kickoff, and it's going to piss you off.
Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, what do you got?
This. All right, so, Abe, I don't know if you know about this particular soundbite that I'm about to play, but it's Neanderthalic in nature, and so we're going to start our Monday off with stupidity down here.
Oh, I know what
There you
you're
go,
about.
he's done.
Good girl.
Good girl.
Oh, gee. Wow.
Yeah, so one more time from the top. One more time.
But you're the one that's bringing that
Yes,
up.
absolutely.
So can you not give us some more on it?
Done. Good girl.
Done.
Well done. Cheers.
There you go, he's done.
Good girl.
Good girl.
Oh, gee.
Brendan Rodgers, ladies and gentlemen, being a Neanderthal, welcome to Monday. Hi, Abe. How you doing?
I'm doing good. That's normally how I greet my dog, but it's unfortunately not a human being. So, today I feel like I'm a better man than Brendan.
Yeah, so bottom line, for those that may not know, and Jarrett is our resident Celtic fan, and he's as livid as humanly possible because Celtic isn't even in the lead in the Scottish League. Basically what happened, took 2 stoppage time goals from substitutes to get a win over Motherwell. So Brendan Rodgers and Jane Lewis, after the match, Jane's asking questions. She wanted to elaborate on comments made after the win. He was PO'd after the goals from subs, and so now they're 4 points behind Rangers. And so Rodgers goes, there's a story being written about this group, but we'll write our own story. And then that's when all of that happened. Brendan was like, nope. And then he finishes, okay, done, good girl, well done. Lewis laughed it off. I mean, I give her full credit, but Brendan Rodgers is a Neanderthal. And good morning. Yikes. Jarrett? He's stunned. Jared is still stunned about this.
No, no. Let me lay this out.
Go for it.
He can be as mad as he wants about being 4 points back at Rangers. You were 8 points up on Rangers when they fired Michael Beal, and you have completely gacked it. All of the so the lead into that entire thing that happens is he does the whole, we haven't written our story. Our story's yet to be written. I guess everyone decided they're Cody Rhodes now. Everyone went full Cody Rhodes. Here's the thing. He did that soundbite for TV and then did the same, like almost verbatim kind of thing for radio. Yeah. And I think he expected to be able to just that's the final word because Stone Cold said so, and walk off with that great soundbite. And this reporter from BBC Scotland was like, hey, you want to elaborate on that?
St. Louis is like, nope, you got to talk to me a little more.
St. Louis is like, a follow-up, please.
Yes. Oh, man. Yes. Welcome to stupidity.
I'm like, yeah, it's really dumb. It's really unnecessary from Brendan Rodgers, but Brendan Rodgers' legacy is already tainted from the fact that, he was at Celtic, then left in the middle of the night, like got on a Mayflower moving van in the middle of the night, went to Leicester, was fine for a while, then fell apart, tried to reestablish himself, went back to Celtic to try and reestablish himself, and has completely spit the bed.
Yeah.
No, his legacy is just screwing up his own legacy. It is what it is. Like, this is but a block in the pyramid of suck that he has built.
A block in the pyramid of suck. I like that. All right. So we'll get into more of that in a bit. Now, Abe is here. Abe didn't know that we were going to talk about Brendan Rodgers, so that was opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's how we do things around here. That is, where's my QR code? Right there. There we go. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10% reinvested into youth games and stuff. They've earmarked very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay. All right, Abe, since we've had, let's see, so 2, carry the 1, 4, 24, 36, 41 hours, actually 40 for you because you and Garrett had the postgame show. Now that you've had 40 hours to process what happened in Columbus, what are your 30,000-foot thoughts as we get things rolling?
Yeah, my thoughts really haven't changed much from the immediacy of the postgame. And that's, it's unfortunate you weren't able to get a result. You weren't able to find a way to get a goal and grab a point, but still a relatively positive performance from the team. I think you can see early on that it cost the team efficiency with Thiago Almada being out with Argentina. He just wasn't in the flow with his teammates. We saw a much better performance in the second half. And so you give up the full 3 points. Can you take that momentum, though, and build it moving forward? You have an off week to address certain situations that maybe were bothersome or problemsome in the game. So you can be very specific about how you want to make changes moving forward before you have your home opener. And so I do feel pretty good. Obviously, going to Columbus, they're getting their rings, they're raising a banner, they're putting a star on their jersey. All the things that come with being defending champions. They had a lot of momentum. They're a very good team. I don't think United held them to 1 goal in any of the matches a year ago. So ultimately still pretty positive. You saw Brad Guzan with a PK save, and a lot of people were questioning, should he be the starting goalie? And certainly that story still to be told entirely. But ultimately, I'm still pretty pleased. It would have been nice to grab a point. But I do think it was a pretty good outcome. And like the voice of Atlanta United has pointed out, United's 2 best seasons have come after opening with losses on the road. So maybe we'll see a little bit of a trend on that.
No doubt about it. Mike Conti on the 280 character app posting that. Jarrett, your first question for Abe on a Monday morning.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of let's dive in a little bit more into that and your 30,000-foot view specifically. I wanted to get your thoughts on the new guys we saw, like Slish and Gregerson, are everyone's favorite Norwegian giant. I wanted to get how you felt about them.
Yeah, I mean, the first things first, Pineda can say whatever he wants, and Gregerson can feel however he feels. That was a very clear penalty. You can't push a guy from behind. And we've seen Gregerson play relatively physical. A lot of times maybe it's more so moving away from goal than running at a full speed back towards his own goal. So the penalty was a penalty, and no complaints about that. But I will say this. The other two guys on Atlanta United weren't catching the Crew attacker. Gregerson did show some real speed in chasing him down, at least close enough to give him a little shove from behind. So I was impressed from that perspective with the speed. Also, the shot blocking certainly came into play. Who knows if Goose is getting to that ball that Gregerson put over the post with his head. So very impressed, even so. But the concern that I had was what showed up ultimately, and that is the communication through the backbone of your defense. When you do have Schleich and Moyamba pairing for the first time, when you do have Williams and Gregerson pairing for the first time. And so that did play its own role a little bit. But ultimately, I was pretty pleased with the new guys. I don't think there were too much concerns. Obviously, you prefer not to have drawn a penalty or given a penalty in that situation. But he does look like, speaking specifically of Gregerson, he does look like a guy you can trust in the back. They're going to have to adjust to the league. And that was always going to be the question. Do teams attack differently than they do over in Europe? Is it a different level of physicality than maybe the Norwegian or Polish league, stuff like that? So there will be an adjustment period, but I do think it was a relatively positive first step in the opening game.
And if you take it, say, 45 minutes at a time, you look at that first 45 with Columbus, and Columbus was making it difficult for Atlanta United to get things rolling offensively, working the press, pinning them into the corners, using the touchline as that extra defender. And then there was that 5-minute stretch, once again, first half, that 5-minute stretch where they end up getting the pressure. And that was when Columbus started to kind of take advantage of everything. But in the second half, I think Atlanta United adjusted well and worked their way around. In the second half, the possession numbers basically flipped from what Columbus had in the first half to the numbers that Atlanta had in the second half, where it finished up basically 50-50. I think it took those halftime adjustments to try to figure out how to get around what Columbus was doing defensively. Columbus, obviously, I think Jason said this after the match, right there in that game that you and everybody at 92.9 were a part of on the weekend, top two teams in the Eastern Conference right now. And you get that kind of a 15-round heavyweight fight out of the blocks here in 2024.
Yeah, and look, United had chances to steal a point there. They came very close to putting one in the back of the net. And it was interesting. There was a comment from Bartosz Schleich that was very interesting after the game about his first time playing with Thiago Almada. He essentially said, I'm trying to get this guy the ball as much as possible. And you do have to wonder if there was a little bit of forcing that in the first half, and they kind of figured out how to play together more so in the second half, as you mentioned. It was a totally different ball game in the second half. And I do think that's part of it, is the first time that he took the field with his teammates was essentially in a competitive environment and an atmosphere on the road. And so there's definitely a little bit of that. I think it's going to be much better going forward. I do think that you saw the adjustments, and I said this in the pregame, and it came based off of Giacomakis' comment beforehand about he was very confident. It's nice that they're getting their awards and all that, but we're coming in, we're leaving with a win. And the question was, are you going to play like that? And I don't think they played like that. They were not aggressive. They were not looking to move forward early on. They were not on the front foot. And so that also changed in the second half. And part of that's desperation. Part of that may be Columbus changing their tactics a little bit, but you definitely see a much better team in the second half than in the first half. And you just look to try and grab that momentum and carry it in through 2 weeks and into your home opener.
Jared, go for it.
If it's you personally, would you rather be getting right back out there again this week, or are you relishing this week plus break that you have to build chemistry and fitness?
Yeah, if it were a different scenario and Thiago Almada had been with this team, I probably would have liked to get right back after it. But I do think there is value well, first off, I mean, there's value anyways because you were able to play. You were probably able to extend guys in game that maybe you wouldn't have if you were having to play midweek or in another weekend. And, I wasn't sure if Caleb Wiley was going to go 90. Almada as well. I wasn't sure to what extent they would go. So it already benefited you in one manner, although ultimately, again, it didn't actually get you anything. But yeah, I think the ability to address certain concerns after seeing this team in a 1 week or in one game, and really being able to dial in on that stuff for 2 weeks, along with ingratiating Almada back into with his new teammates. Shoring up a couple things on the defensive side. Again, Williams and Gregerson, their first time back there together. So I do think there's value right now at this part of the season in having this extra week to address specifics, which you don't normally get to do because of the MLS schedule.
Yeah, traditionally, Abe, what I do when I watch the match is I take notes. I literally will take notes, and I will sit there and do key moments throughout the entire match. And then I was noticing in my notes, say that 10 times fast, that first half, barely a mention of Thiago Almada. And obviously, Columbus is going to earmark him. They're going to try to pin him in every single time he touched the ball in the first 45. 2, if not 3 guys were collapsing on him, and he had to ditch and try to find an outlet so Atlanta United could keep possession. So first half for me, 2 pages worth of notes. Thiago Almada's not on it. Second half, I'm looking at my notes. I've got 2 mentions of Almada in the 50s. I've got another mention in the 70s. I've got another mention in 90. And I think to your point, where you have Thiago, who invested all of this time and all of this energy into the Argentine national team to get them to the Olympics, it's going to take him a while to get back into full song and get that engine revving with the way that you're looking for. And once again, I think we found that rhythm with him, especially second half in this one. And to your point, I think that the off week will help with those relationships, those little societies that we talked about.
Yeah, look, undoubtedly disappointed that he wasn't able to come right in and leave a bigger mark, but ultimately not surprised. Like that is kind of what I expected it. And credit to Columbus, by the way, who they have to force that issue, because if you do give him space, he will take care of it and play within the flow of the game. They did not, and so he had to change his individual tactics. But look, the thing we saw, what makes him great, and you just pointed it out, there were a couple of moments that came real close in the second half, and it doesn't take much for him, because we've seen this throughout Almada's career, and he had 19 assists last year, to go along with a boatload of goals as well. But it's one of those things where he can almost be invisible, and then in one moment he can change the game, and I think that was kind of what I was relying on. And it almost happened, obviously, the back heel from Tyler Wolff, which was an outstanding touch into his path. And unfortunately, a head was put on, I think it was Amundsen maybe, got a head over the bar. But it just doesn't take much for him to change the match. And that's why he's in there. That's why sometimes you see him struggling. Sometimes you do see him not having the impact throughout the course of a game, but it's for those moments of impact that you rely on him for. It is frustrating to me, I'll be honest, sometimes, where we have this discussion of he's the best player in MLS, or that, this is obviously pre-Messi, but we talk about, hey, he might be the best player in the MLS, and he just kind of goes away for moments or stretches of the game or a season, but then you see him do something and it reminds you just how devastating he can be in favor of Atlanta United. And I do think that as you get a little deeper into the season, it's just going to get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner in regards to the teamwork surrounding Almada.
All right. What I'd like to do with you and with Garrett, when it ends up being an odd man rush here, is do the old hockey trick at the end of the hockey games where they would do the 3 stars. Oh, by the way, what's in the jug? Is it straight up, are you dihydrogen oxide, or is that coffee?
This is just water.
Okay.
It's just ice water.
All right. So what I want to do with you and Garrett after every match on a Monday, and I know I'm springing this on you too, I want to do 3 stars. So we'll give the match the hockey treatment, and give me your 3 stars of the match. And if we can find a sponsor, the more power to it. But give me your 3 stars from this match against Columbus.
Yeah, I think you have to start with Guzan. I thought he played pretty well. Obviously, the one goal that did get by him was out of his realm, anyways. But more importantly, he stopped a PK that kept you in the game and gave you an opportunity to try and fight your way back. Ultimately, you didn't. But if he gives up that PK, that's it against Columbus, and we've seen those games get out of hand as well if you fight too hard. So I'd certainly give it to Goose. I think he makes the most sense there. I will give it to Almada as well. You saw the difference in the first half and the second half, and just how close they came to finding that point. And, this team's going to be as good as Almada allows them to be. I mean, they're going to need him to show up more like what he looked like in the second half. And then I'll say it wasn't a great first half for anyone, but I do think Xande Silva was pretty strong throughout before he was eventually substituted. And look, it'll be nice and easy if we do these 3 stars and we have 2 goal scorers and a defender who makes some nice plays. A little bit tougher when you're not able to get anything of note statistically, but I'll give Xande Silva my 3rd star.
And he was the highest rated Atlanta United player that started, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore. We'll go over Xande's numbers in just a little bit. Okay, so there's 2 weeks between now and the home opener. Obviously, you and I will catch up again next Monday, where we've had a week to process everything and kind of preview what we're staring at for the home opener. Hit the promo for me. Let me know what's going on. Let everybody know what's going on with you and everybody there at 92.9 The Game with the Atlanta United content.
Yeah, it's an hour pregame show and an hour postgame show, myself and Garrett Chapman. And then throughout the week, if you have questions, feel free to send us, as you see on the screen there, just at Abe Gordon. You can find me on the Twitter /X. You can send me a post, is what they're calling them now.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, really looking forward to it. It was great to get the season opener going and finally have some games that matter. It's going to be an odd week off without any action this weekend. Certainly we'll take in some of the other MLS games throughout. But yeah, I can't wait. Home opener. We're going to be at the stadium doing the shows, pregame and postgame, and we're pretty excited about it.
Looking forward to it, my friend. Thanks as always for hopping on and batting leadoff every single Monday with us here when it comes to SDH and all that you guys do over there at 92.9 The Game with Atlanta United. Enjoy your water. Enjoy your palatial background there. That's a very nice set that you've orchestrated this morning. And be well, my friend. We'll catch up with you next week.
Yeah, look forward to it. See you guys next Monday.
That's Abe. And so Abe and Garrett get to hang out with us every single Monday when Garrett's not working and he's not crushed for work. But Abe gets to help us out with our coverage with Atlanta United. Remember what Abe said. This is the gospel. The only franchise I can pretty much bank, the only franchise in Major League Soccer that gives you an hour pregame and an hour postgame every single match day. 4 hours coast to coast. 4 hours coast to coast with coverage. And I think it was a little longer than 4 hours this time, because if it started at 10 after and it went for like almost 2 hours, so 2:10, 4:10, yeah. So it'd be like 4 hours and 10 minutes. So once again, with what Mike and Jason and Abe and Garrett and everybody there at 92.9 The Game, they get it. They understand the power of the 17s. They understand the power of Atlanta United, and devoting even more resources to it now than they have in past seasons. So very, very cool stuff from 92.9 The Game. Great to have Abe putting up with our silliness and all of our questions every single Monday, and Garrett when he can as well. So that's opening segment. Once again, since it is a Reaction Monday, let it ride in the comments. We'll go through them. And we'll let everybody else know what you thought. We'll go over the numbers with the players, go over SofaScore and stats and all that kind of stuff. Xande Silva, 7.6, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore on the day for Xande. 81 minutes, 51 touches, 84% passing, 2 key passes, 1 for 3 on his crosses, 1 big chance created, 3 for 3 on the dribble, 8 of 14 in duels, 8 of 14 on his duels, fouled once, 1 clearance, 4 tackles, and 1 dribble pass. So that's Shonda Silva at a 7.6. As our buddy Joe Freihofer refers to him as the Portuguese Peter Parker. Remember the Spider-Man mask and all that? So Shonda Silva, the highest-rated player for Atlanta United, higher than Brad Guzan, who punched a 7.4. Shonda got the highest rating for Atlanta United on the weekend. Jay Fortune, Tyler Wolf had high 6s in that. But we'll go over all of the grades. We'll get into that in a little later on here in hour number 1. Once again, hour number 2 starts with Bart at 10 o'clock, and we'll go over women's national team. We'll go over reffing down here because there was some stuff to talk about. We'll talk about the replacement officials, specifically center refs. We'll get into that with Bart. 10:30, it is Drew on the road, and we'll do Prem and Proper the review, and we will catch up with him. Now, Prem and Proper, here's a bit of a tease. Because there Abe's first 2 stars, he had it was Brad and Shonda Silva. So Brad and Shonda Silva were it was Tiago, Brad and Shonda Silva, I think were his 3, if I remember correctly. So those are his 3 stars. And so that's what you're staring at with Atlanta United. So Maddie wants to drift in for the first time on a Monday and drop some early knowledge on what's going on with Maddie. So let me add Maddie in. And I know that traditionally Maddie comes in for Prem and Proper, but the way that things are right now, since Maddie Cruz is on the 1s and 2s, she can pretty much crash whenever she wants. So what's on your mind early on a Monday?
I can drop in whenever I would like.
Yes.
Even if it's in a regular conversation. I can just pop in.
Yeah, she has the power of a divine being now here on the show. What's on your mind?
Watch out. I think my biggest question, at least from after like all the games with Atlanta United, great points from Abe and Jarrett and everything like that. Pretty much echoed everything I thought as well. But I think the question still remains of the goalkeeper situation. You know, I think Brad put up a really good game that day. I mean, you cannot like him in goal or however you want. He played very well in the game against Columbus. Very well. But, you know, it still begs the question of like, okay, well, now you have Guzan and you also still have Cohen. Mm-hmm. How is this going to work? And so I think that's still my question going into the rest of the season is who is solidified going to be our starting goalkeeper? Because I still think it's up in the air. Yeah,
and well, that's what practice is all about, Monday through Friday, getting ready for Saturdays. It's like, okay, who shines, who's doing well, who's making sure that that individual wants to make sure that they are going to be the starter. Brad's numbers is a 7.4, 2 saves, 1 punch clear, one for one on runs running out, saves from inside the box 1, saved a penalty, 48 touches, 79% passing at 31 of 39, 9 of 17 on long balls on the day, 2 clearances for Brad, and the penalty save, obviously. So Brad gets a 7.4 on the day. But no, we've talked about this where you want to have a roster that's deep because you're going to be in all these competitions, because you have schedule compression, because you anticipate deep runs in whatever tournaments you're going to be in, ones that are either on the books or are being negotiated. So no, having competition is always going to be a good thing. I mean, you've got Derek Williams and Stian Gregerson starting. Louisa Brahm is not just going to sit idly by and sit there and go, okay, well, it's Derek's now. No, I mean, that's what we're talking about at the back with Derek and Gregerson and Noah Cobb and Louisa Brahm, Ronald Hernandez, a part of that discussion in the midfield. You know, Dax McCarty when does Dax get minutes and what situations does that happen? You know, all of these questions, they're good questions to have when you're talking about the depth that's all over the place.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's absolutely one of those things too of like, you know, a player can be on, a player can be off, especially in the goalkeeper. I feel like a goalkeeper in that position is very a mental game a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Just from people I've talked to who are goalkeepers in any sport, I feel like this goes around for many. The goalkeeper position is such a mental game as much as it is a physical game. And I you know, it pegs the question of if Guzan's on right now, is he going to be on for the rest of the season? I will say, I think the competition is going to help it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
because I think having that competition pushes you to do something else. I think personally, I think if this goalkeeper battle wasn't happening, Guzan doesn't save that PK.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, mental acuity and being on top of your game and wanting to continue to prove a point. I mean, I see your point in that discussion, no doubt about it. Let's go over the other numbers really quickly. Let everybody know what your comments are in the Twitch pitch, because we do have a developing story that happened overseas before the show broke this morning, and we'll get into that. And it also kind of ties into 10:30, but we'll get more opinion at 10:30. The other numbers, Gigi a 6.8 with a yellow card. Tiago had a 7. Saba also had a 7. Saba ran up and down all over the place, and I think he was second in the league in a category referred to as intensive runs on the weekend. Bart Sleesh had a 6.8. Sleesh, by the way, ran for over 8 miles in the match.
That's crazy.
He ran for over 8 miles. I think he was either number 1 or number 2 in distance accumulated, or whatever, distance ran or distance, whatever they refer to it as, distance covered. Number 1 or number 2 in Major League Soccer on the weekend. First match in MLS, number 1 or number 2 in the league, having covered over 8 miles when it came to Bart Sleesh and what he was up to against Columbus. Tristan Muyumba had a 6.8. Caleb had a 6.3. Derek Williams a 6.5. Stian Gregerson a 6.6. Brooks had a 7.0 on the bench of Johnny Fortune. Jay Fortune had a 6.7 in his 10 minutes. Tyler Wolf had a 6.8 in his 10 minutes. Statistics on the day. It was 52-48 Atlanta with possession. Remember how we talked about with Abe? It was stilted. First half, it was like 57-43. Then it completely flips in the second half. I think that was when Atlanta United made some adjustments, figured things out. And once again, the familiarity of being out there and getting reacquainted with one another, specifically Thiago Almada. Total shots, 15, 8 to Columbus, 3-2 shots on target, 6 blocks for Columbus, 1 for Atlanta United, 3 corners to 2, 7 offsides on the day for Columbus compared to 2, 13-8 in fouls called, yellows 2 for Atlanta United, free kicks, throws, goal kicks, all in Columbus's favor. Big chances, 3-1, but they missed 2 of them, hit the woodwork once. Shots inside the 18, 11, 4, 2 saves on each side for both Schulte and Brad. Passing on the day, Atlanta had 86% completion compared to 85. Long balls, 28-21 for Atlanta United. Crosses, 5-3. Dribbles was won by Atlanta United on percentage. 9 successful dribble attempts compared to 8 for Columbus. But Atlanta United was more successful on the dribble, 50% to 38. Columbus lost possession more than Atlanta United did. Barely won 47 and 91 duels. So it was like 51-52 to 48% for Columbus. Atlanta, however, won more aerials at 7-6. Had more successful tackles, 23-20. 17 interceptions to 9 for Columbus, and 16 clearances on the day for Atlanta United compared to only 4 for Columbus. So that's your rundown, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore, with all of the numbers. So, all right, we'll get back once again. Lay it all out there. It's a Reaction Monday. I want your comments in the section. We'll go over them coming up in just a little bit. But we do have this piece of news that came across the board before we got on the air this morning, and it has to do with a little bit of soccer over there. So let's see what happens if I play the music. It means obviously some news broke. And it has to do with Everton. And I know that there are a couple of Evertonians here in the Twitch pitch. The first ruling on Everton's point deductions has come across. 10-point deduction for breaching profit and sustainability rules reduced to 6 following the appeal hearing. Premier League released a statement revealing 2 of the 9 grounds of Everton's appeal were upheld, sanctioned by an independent commission back just before Thanksgiving. And the club will now be on 25 points, moves them up to 15th, 5 points above the bottom 3. Everton came out with a statement. They're satisfied with the appeal that resulted in a reduction of the points sanction. Rob Edwards for Luton Town basically said in his Monday press conference that you can't rely on any other kind of point deduction for anything. So they've got to take care of business and put business in their own hands. No real surprise there. Nuno is not focused on the implications. He's focused on making sure that Forest can stay up. And so what happens next? Remember, Forest is in the same boat. Process is, once again, from 21-22 complete. Now, Everton's also been charged with breaking the PSR rules for a second time, the assessment period ending 22-23. Nottingham Forest also charged with a similar breach in that period. Cases have now been referred to the chair of the judicial panel, which will appoint separate independent commissions to determine the appropriate sanctions. So Everton got through stage 1 from 10 points to 6 points. Now they're dealing with 22-23 season, as is Nottingham Forest. Those hearings have to be completed by April 5. The clubs then have 7 days to appeal. The appeals have to be concluded by May 24th, 5 days after the Premier League season ends. So that way, you won't have anything hanging over your head collectively like has happened in lower divisions in English football, where teams that were relegated plan on suing because of continued violations that were alleged. So you got to get it done by 5 days after the season completion so you don't get into any other kinds of legal mess. Legal mess. That's the absolute, that is the actual term, legal mess. No doubt.
Don't get involved with it.
Yes. And according to, well, this is interesting. All right. So according to Filippo Clare and our friends at Yosemar Football, Everton is also considering another bid entirely outside of 777's bid. And we've been seriously deep diving on 777 partners, and really I don't know how they would be in any condition to be approved to be owners with all of their financial problems. So our friends at Yosemar Football are saying that it could be somebody else that could be interested outside of 777 partners. So keep an eye on that. Could there be another? Credit rating agency AM Best has slashed the ratings of 777 RE from fair to weak and very weak. So that's obviously not very good when it comes to wanting to buy football clubs. So there you go. Could be another owner. Who knows? We'll see. But right now that's where we are with Everton. So you got 10 points down to 6, and you could have probably maybe somebody else chasing after what's going on. So, all right. Let me go through everybody who's in the barn, and we'll go through all the hellos. Let's see. Morning, Dell. Morning, Abby. Morning, Tom. Yes, Tom, we're 15th. Tom is absolutely ecstatic about being 15th at the moment. Morning, Alex. We can talk about Messi and Friends if you like. We can talk about that late night last night and what happened there. I'm sure there were plenty of black helicopters out and about sitting there going, okay, something's going to happen. It's going to be a draw, or they're going to come back and win.
I'm going to get on my soapbox.
The Marquis Delgado second yellow, and we can get into that with more at 10 o'clock.
Yep.
So morning Pars. Let me get through all the hellos, and then we can get to your soapbox. Morning Nile. Morning Four Card. Morning Emilio. Morning Hutch. Let's see. And morning Harry. Morning Ropes. There we go. All right, soapbox, go. You wanted to get on your soapbox? Get on your soapbox.
Oh, geez. I mean, listen. My soapbox is I don't even know. Listen, I just wanted LA Galaxy to win so bad.
Okay.
Wanted them to win so bad. But I will say props to the Galaxy for getting in there and not backing down. They really stood up to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and remember, and this is Luis Suarez out there just looks absolutely painful.
Absolutely.
I mean, let me let me see those numbers. I have to see Luis Suarez's activity here. So, all right. So lineups, Luis Suarez in the middle, punched a 6.7. No real surprise. An average number. So Suarez, here we go. No shots on target, no shots off target, no shots blocked, no dribble attempts, 24 touches on the day as your number 9, 15 of 20 passing, 75%, 2 for 2 on long balls, 1 for 2 on his ground duels, 1 of 3 overall. 7 times he loses possession, got fouled once, and that's it. So that's Luis Suarez's day in a nutshell, punching a 6.7 on SofaScore. But it is just a painful watch with him out there. It really is. But LA, you look at LA Galaxy, and I think that this season, obviously, we talked about it last year, where LA Galaxy are concerned, this is Greg Vanney's season where he's got to do something or he's gone. And I think in the West, with the money that they've invested, 19 million or so, 21 million, depending on your sourcing, and bringing in Gabriel Peck and bringing in Joseph Paintsil. Paintsil is going to be a handful. He is chaos personified and runs at like 90 miles an hour. And it was difficult for the left-hand side of the back line for Inter Miami to handle him. And then when Peck came in, Paintsil goes over to the left-hand side. So you had Gabriel Peck on the right, Paintsil on the left, creating problems with speed. And I think that once again, you look at what LAG did with their speed, and it is going to create problems in transition for Inter Miami and Messi and friends. It is going to be, you get teams that want to run, can get the ball in transition, it's going to be hell for Messi and friends to try to get back defensively against that bunch. But Paintsil and Peck, once they get, they get acclimated to Major League Soccer and they get over the travel and all that kind of stuff, LAG could be a handful with everything that they've got up top with Ricky Puig and Puig. So it's a P3. It's Puig and Peck and Paintsil and the Bishop Joveljic up front. And I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting with LAG. And Tom says Paintsil looked last night like he's trying a little too hard to impress. Probably. I mean, first time out, you're a home crowd, Messi, all that kind of stuff. And you knew that Ricky Puig was going to want to try and show up the Gulfstream Galacticos with all of his old former Barcelona teammates. They hugged in the tunnel and all that kind of stuff. It's like Jordi Alba hug, Messi hug, Busquets hug. I think Alba tapped him on the shoulder. Hey, oh, hi, hug, one of those things. But yeah, Ricky Puig, he wanted to show out last night. So Emilio, did Vanny get a new do or face work? You look like a new anchor. I hope he's okay. I think, Emilio, I think it was probably just the first match of the season, and he hadn't had all of the wear and tear that he had at the end of the last season. So it's like, compare how he looked last night, blazer press shirt, hair was perfect. Maybe if LAG's having problems, look a little later on down the season and compare that Vanny to this Vanny and see if there's a big difference. But so what else was on your mind, Maddie, from the weekend?
Ooh, I just love that MLS is back. I really do. I think it's so fun, getting to, get to see everything. And it was so fun. I loved getting MLS 360 was fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It was they really upgraded it from last year, which I really like. They just did a lot of better stuff with it, and I love it. And I'm just excited. I'm excited for the season to continue. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. Watched MLS 360. It was great to catch up with Kevin Egan on Friday as Kevin was heading to New York City. And it sounded like, and the biggest thing, and we talked about it. We talked about it when Kevin was on Friday, that Kevin needs a vuvuzela or a siren or an air horn or something. Because when they were going from match to match and you'd see goal alert on the lower third of the screen, Kevin's just basically having to interrupt the discussion. Oh, we got a goal. We got to go to, we got to go to this match or whatever. So got a goal alert. San Jose and FC Dallas. We got to go to Toyota, one of those kinds of things. So they need some kind of sounder. They really do. So that's my only thing. Loved watching Kevin hosting 360, and that was the Fastest 2 hours and 20 minutes that's been out there for MLS for quite some time. David commenting on Miguel Berry, and I know that everybody was looking at Berry late last night when he came in for LAG and drove through 3 Inter Miami defenders trying to keep possession and try and chase after another goal for LAG. So that was looking at Miguel Berry getting in late minutes, now wearing 27 for LAG. Let's see. Abby, I will have to recommend for future things to not have block party along with a watch party. It was difficult to watch, and we'll watch a replay later today when it came to the match. Yeah. And Tom left actually before halftime to go watch at home. And Pars, good morning. Let's see. Block party. That's not me. I did not send you that email.
It's me. I'm sorry.
Block party date originally scheduled for the upcoming weekend would have been better, but it was changed after some of the SGs had watch parties already scheduled. Tom, Gregerson was good. Sleesh still adjusting. It was a bit rough. Niall thought Gregerson was good beside the penalty. Think that he played a role in making sure that this was only 1-0. I mean, we always talk about the closing speed and having a free safety like Stian Gregerson. When dude is 6'5", he can close a little quicker than a lot of other folks. And so having Gregerson back there, and here's what I thought about the penalty in and of itself. For me, it was a 50-50 call because there were some angles where it looked like it was shoulder to shoulder. And then there were angles where, you're like, he did end up making contact and bumpings. And so that's what, like I said, you look at some camera angles and you can go, I get it. And then other camera angles where you're going, okay. For me, it was a 50-50 call. I can take it either way. So I'm right there. But having a center back like that, Maddie's heading to the U.S. soccer press conference, by the way. So we'll have that tomorrow as a part of our coverage of the rest of Major League Soccer and getting you ready for the rest of the week. Like I said, there were some angles where you sat there and you went, okay, it looks shoulder to shoulder. And then other camera angles where you're like, okay, there's pre-contact and that caused shoulder to shoulder and that caused the knockdown. So like I said, it can go either way for me. So I understood the call. I got it. And then there was, okay. So either way for me. So that's what I was looking at when it came to the Gregerson PK. Abby, Sleesh looks as though he's still adjusting and that he wasn't impactful. We'll go over Bartos's numbers in a sec. But it will come. These 2 weeks will be good to get the feel of the players working together, getting to know each other, especially since Thiago's been gone for national team duty. So, Abby, since you brought it up, let's get into Bartosz Sleesh's numbers. I did mention that Sleesh ran the most of anybody. I think it was the most of it. He's either number 1 or number 2, but I want to say I think he ran the most of any player in the first weekend for Major League Soccer, a little over 8 miles. All right, so Bartosz Sleesh on the day, 90 minutes, 73 touches, 81% passing of 46 of 57. 0 for 1 on crosses, completed his only long ball. 2 shots off target, 0 for 1 on the dribble, 1 for 6 on the ground. And let's see, he had 1 clearance, 1 block, 2 picks, a tackle, and 2 dribbles passed. All those defensive categories got stuff clicked off. That's big. So that's Bart Sleesh, who punched a 6.8, courtesy of our friends at SofaScore in match week number 1. Morning 4 card. Yes, it is happy first #Overreaction Monday of 2024. It's a reaction Monday. 4 card, it can be an overreaction for you. But remember, it's over, under, or on par. So you can have an overreaction, an underreaction, or an on par reaction. That's why it's a reaction Monday across the board. Emilio says the midfield didn't seem overwhelmed. Still new, however. Yeah, and I mean, once again, we got into the discussion of, you've got Almada coming back in from international duty, trying to once again get integrated with everybody. And his other 2 midfielders are new. Bartosz Sleesh and Muyumba for a full training camp. But Bartosz Sleesh's relationship with Muyumba, new. Sleesh with Almada, new. So the midfield still trying to get acquainted with each other. You had two new center backs, Gregerson and Derek Williams. So once again, literally you have your 6 in Bartosz Sleesh, Derek Williams and Steon Gregerson, that triangle there to help out defensively at the back, all new. And you still held Columbus to 1 goal on the day and held them to nothing in the second half. I'm going to go over the second half numbers coming up in a bit. But once again, just Thiago getting acclimated, 3 new guys, and it didn't hit me until I was just staring at it, that Sleesh, as your 6, Derek Williams and Steon Gregerson, that triangle, all new. Let me get into the stats. The second half stats specifically. Second half stats, Atlanta had 60% of possession. Like I said, I think that a lot happened after the adjustments at the half, and you ended up with 60% possession, 7 shots to 3 for Atlanta United, 2 on target, 2 corners. Columbus didn't have one, although they had 9 to 4 in free kicks, 8 to 2 in goal kicks, which meant Atlanta United had all of those shots. 1 big chance each side, 4 shots inside the 18, 3 shots outside the 18, 2 saves for Schulte in the second half. Passing, 86% compared to 83. Long balls, 15 to 9 for Atlanta United, completing 54%, completing 38 if you're Columbus. And 5 crosses in the second half to none for Columbus. So Atlanta United defensively pinning in Crew in the second half and forcing them to have to do things a stage at a time and keeping them from getting to do anything on the edges. So good work there defensively, once again getting into that rhythm of the second 45 minutes. 4 for 8 on the dribble compared to 6 of 14, 50% to 43. Atlanta won more duels in the second half, 24 of 46, won 5 of 7 in the air. 12 tackles compared to 6, 3 clearances compared to 2. Remember that big interceptions number that we had? 12 of the interceptions, whereas Atlanta was trying to chase the equalizer in the second half. So that's the numbers from the second half compared to the first half and the overall number. 60% possession in the second 45 and all of the other statistics that we went through there when it came to Atlanta United in the second 45 minutes. So once again, let me know what's on your mind, and that's what we're here for. Tom, can't overreact to a 1-0 loss to the defending champs on the road. However, perfectly reasonable for people to have a little bit of PTSD from last year watching them start slowly and have to grow into the match and be coming on hard at the end. You'd feel differently, Tom says, about a 1-goal loss if you'd gone toe-to-toe with them from the start and lost 3-2. That's his opinion anyway. And Hutch agrees. Abby was hoping for a goal, and Emilio was expecting a rebound goal after the PK stop, to be honest. I mean, traditionally, that's what we see. You know, you get that shot, and then you end up with the parry and the push going outbound, and then you end up getting basically a slam dunk from about 3 or 4 yards away. But that didn't happen. So full credit to Atlanta United defensively for charging inside the 6 and clearing the ball after the shot was taken and was missed. And I give Brad a lot of credit there with all of the gamesmanship that was involved with getting ready for the PK, taking his time, a little bit of the water bottle, staying off the side. You know, he's standing over the ball. Brad's just like, no, I got some water. I'm going to get over here. I got some water. We'll do this over here. Oh, you want me in there now? Okay, fine. So then that's when Brad showed up. And, you know, maybe Brad saw something. Don't know because of the camera angles that were there at lower.com. But in the Miami, the Messi and Friends LAG match, you could tell where the penalty was going from Ricky Puig. Calendar had it labeled the entire time, and it was locked in, and Puig opened himself up, and you saw that the left plant foot going to Calendar's left. That's where he went, made the save, and off and away. So maybe Brad saw something in the plant foot, and maybe it was just unnerved, or both. But good work by Brad to keep it at 1. Tom, Brad, well, solid question is, will we see that going forward or more of what we saw last season? And if it's the latter, would be troubling to think we signed a guy that couldn't beat him out. Like I said, that's what Monday through Friday's for. You get to gauge what's going on Monday through Friday and then probably determine your starter. And you're trying to have this, but to have this as a decision is definitely something that a lot of teams don't have. They don't have that same kind of weekly discussion when it comes to the depth and it comes to lineup. And that's the other thing, when it comes to lineups themselves, especially, center back and what have you, it could be game by game where, hey, I need a veteran here. I'll put, somebody in to discuss what's going on, and we'll rock and roll from there and see what happens. But that's where we are. We'll get back to your comments once again. Everybody in the comments, let's fire away and let me know what's going on the first Reaction Monday of the year. Speaking of reaction, it is 10 o'clock on a Monday, and it is time to catch up with Bart Keeler. Let me take care of clicking and things. So, Bart, as always, incredibly on the mark. And so Bart is in here on Monday. How was your weekend, my friend?
Very great, very long, very busy. I had to come in town and visit me. She lives in Nashville, came down, and we went to a concert last night. I am tired. I spent a lot of time not sleeping this weekend. It was great.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, what was the concert? I mean, don't leave me hanging. I mean, I saw it on your IG, but who was the concert?
It's an artist named Haley Witters. She's a country artist from originally from Iowa, and she's playing kind of a small tour of her own headlining shows, and been supporting her for a while. So I was glad to see her in person as her headline show here in Atlanta.
There you go. So Arsenal. Let me ask Arsenal, and before 10:30 and Prem and Proper takes over. What do you think? I mean, it's going to be a 3-horse race, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, we need Man City to I don't know, magically get fined and docked points for all their financial improprieties. But I think I'm just encouraged to see Arsenal playing so well. I was very disappointed with that midweek match in Champions League. Obviously, different set of scenarios, but the fact that they bounced back with so many goals again, and that was why midweek was concerning, because we had been on this tear of scoring like I think 27 goals a game or some crazy stat like that, and to get basically no shots on goal against a Porto team that's good, obviously very organized and resolute defensively, but still you would have hoped that we would have looked a little better in that match. To bounce back with a resounding win over Newcastle is nice. And yeah, it's tight at the top right now, but I'm just happy that they're playing well and seeing a resurgence during this part of the season where historically Arsenal has decided to forget how to play soccer. We had that in December, and hopefully we're past that.
What's the mug today, by the way?
Share.
There you go. Yeah. Well done. Nicely done. All right. So do you want to start with the women's national? Actually, let's start with episode 80. What can folks anticipate with you in FTC?
Yeah. So I guess I gave you the file that was too short. I don't know what happened there. Probably just some uploading issues. So I brought on Greg from the For the Culture United podcast, who a lot of you all may know. He does a lot of good work with custom designs, nameplates, and such, and a lot of that for Atlanta United. He's based here in Atlanta. And we just kind of go through all the MLS jerseys we liked and the ones that we didn't like, and then focus on if the Adidas partnership is good for the league. Spoiler alert is that I think I've said this on this part of the show too, is I actually think the Adidas partnership with MLS is a overall good thing. But I do think that you could make the argument there that it's holding the league back in some ways. But maybe specific teams are being held back rather than the league as a whole. So we get into that and kind of the design problems that brings, but also the business kind of hurdles that it creates. It's a really long episode because we talked about a lot, but it was a good conversation, not just about graphic design and jersey design, but also about the business of jerseys and MLS.
Yeah, just don't be fanatics in Major League Baseball.
We are not doing that.
That's so awful. U.S. women's national team, it's very, very busy with the W and the Gold Cup. Early thoughts?
Yeah. Well, first off, I think the first game was good considering that was your rotated roster, right? That lineup was a lot of young players. We saw it and we're like, oh, that's interesting. And they were pretty dominant in a 5-0 win over a not great Dominican Republic team. We're seeing that. Obviously, they qualified, but they're still not at that level. But to back that up with a very resounding 4-0 win over Argentina, and look in control the whole match. Didn't really give Argentina a whole lot of chances outside of, a hopeful prayer from almost midfield, a Steph Curry attempt almost, or a Caitlin Clark attempt probably is a better reference nowadays. It was good. And Argentina is not a bad team, so you're going to give up chances to them. I think that's the takeaway, is that you limited what the other team had and you created a lot. I think also when you're looking at this team, just overall from the 30,000 foot perspective, as you can see a change of philosophy from the previous coach to Twyla, and even with Emma working with Twyla. I mean, we saw back three that was also kind of just more of an amoeba shape and attack where people were everywhere and moving everywhere. It was a little bit more rigid against Argentina. That's probably just, again, because Argentina is a better team than the Dominican Republic. But those types of thoughts, mentalities, and ideas are coming from Emma. And that's the change you're going to see, is a more fluid and dynamic attack that we were frustrated with under Vlatko being stale, stagnant, and uninspired.
Two players that I wanted to get your opinions of. The first one with being very, very busy and putting the ball in the back of the net. What did you think of what you're seeing from Jaden Shaw so far?
Jaden Shaw is coming for a starting midfield spot. Especially, with Haran and Lavelle. I think the frustrating part for fans is that they are incredibly talented players, but I just don't know if they've ever reached the potential that we wanted them to. Now, granted, this last cycle was under the Vlatko regime, when maybe that was the reason and not them. But Jaden Shaw, at a very young age, she's still a teenager, is performing at a very high level for both club and country, and that is cool. And she doesn't ever look like it's too big for her. Yeah. And she looks like she's been a pro for a long time. And that's the benefit we're finally seeing from NWSL, that I do think a lot of the European teams had over us recently, right? Where, although I think our talent level is much higher, they were able to get their players into professional settings a lot earlier than the U.S. team has, because, we were so reliant on the college game, which I still think is a plus for us. But now that we're seeing players like Shaw, Moultrie, even to an extent Smith, Trinity Rodman, they're getting into professional level play a lot earlier in their career. And that you can see when they go to an international call up, they don't look out of place. They're like, yeah, okay, I'm a professional too. I got this. And I think that's the greatest part of what NWSL is seeing. And obviously this is because we're 10 plus years after the start that we can see the fruits of this. And there are more steps that we can take to get that going quicker. But that is the big thing that you're seeing now, is young professionals coming into this women's national team.
And the other young professional that I wanted to get your early opinion on is the only player that has started both matches of the W Gold Cup so far. And it's not somebody that I think a lot of folks have had on their radar in any situation whatsoever. Corbin Albert, who's over at PSG, got both of those starts.
Yeah, I'll be honest and say that I don't think she was necessarily great in either game, but I think that's also a little bit what she can bring to this team, is solid midfield play. She's really good at doing the work of an 8 where she's busy, right? Offensively, I think she does need to grow a little bit. She's a little sloppy with her passing. But from a ball recovery and just kind of tempo keeper, she's really good. And again, that's what we were missing last time, is someone like that who can do it effectively. And this is a tournament without Andy Sullivan. And again, it felt like we saw Andy Sullivan. Basically, if Julia Ertz wasn't playing, Andy Sullivan was the 6. And Albert, not necessarily a 6, but she's working kind of in that double pivot-ish. She was against Argentina, the 6. And it does seem to be something of an upgrade. And again, she's very young. She's not 21 yet, and playing Champions League minutes for PSG, has been there for a couple seasons now. And those, again, that is huge for this women's national team, because you're going to see a big turnover, I think, even more so after the Olympics. And Corbin's the type of player who needs to now get the opportunity to prove herself, and she is.
Tonight, your week continues, or your week starts off, I guess, all over again. 10:15, Argentina, Dominican Republic are at 7 o'clock tonight. And folks can catch that on both the Plus, I think, and on Paramount Plus. And it's an odd mix. It's Paramount Plus and ESPN Deportes with English Spanish. So tonight, 10:15, it is USA and Mexico behind Argentina, Dominican Republic on the Gold Cup. What do you think about tonight?
Well, I think the first thing we have to remember is that the way CONCACAF is doing the knockout rounds for the W Gold Cup is the quarterfinals are seeded. So however, whoever gets the most points and goals and all that kind of stuff will be the number one seed. So right now we're behind Canada in that particular race. Canada is at a +10 goal differential. We're at +9. Mm-hmm. So we do need to beat Argentina or beat Mexico by a significant margin. I mean, all we have to do is not lose and we'll win the group, but like we're shooting for higher things than that, you know? So a big win tonight is needed. I think that there's no doubt the U.S. will at least be a number 2 seed because looking at, Brazil got a win over Colombia, which was a big win for them. They needed that. But their goal differential isn't going to be able to catch up to U.S. and Argentina or U.S. and Canada right now because we're at +10 and 9 and they're like at +2. But that is the thing to watch is you need to not just win, you have to score a lot of goals. You need to put out a resounding win. And that's on top of the fact that this is a USA-Mexico game, right? And the rivalry on the women's side doesn't seem as intense as the men's, but the thing is that Mexico really guns for the U.S. because they know that's the team they have to beat. That's the team that you want to be in this region. And unlike on the men's side where Mexico thinks they're the dominant force in the region, the U.S. women are, because unlike Mexico on the men's side, the U.S. women's national team actually wins things and Mexico just talks big game.
There's the first dig of the morning. It only took
Mexico. I'll dig at them all I want.
It took you 12 minutes to get the first dig in the segment in. All right, so let's go to reffing down here. And there were a couple of moments that I want to get into before we get into your appraisal of the center refs that are replacements right now. First moment that I had in my head when I sent you the pregame notes was the red card that was rescinded and pulled back to a yellow with, I want to say, Sean Davis in Nashville Red Bulls match. And it was I could see it called either way because of the contact that was made by Davis. He was late. It wasn't in the face. It wasn't contact with the face. And that to me could be the reason why I would see it as a yellow and not a red. What did you see there?
So I think first off, I want to talk a little bit about VAR with the replacement referees because we saw a lot more VAR incidents, especially being overturned. Now, I think this was a good incident of VAR correcting not a mistake on the field necessarily, but as you mentioned, like it could have been a red. You look at it, you go, no, we don't want to give a red card for something that really wasn't like it was close to it. But I think you mentioned the contact where it actually hit him.
Yeah.
Yes, it's really dangerous. Is it serious foul play or is it just, a dangerous tackle or challenge, I should say. And I think they got it eventually right just to say, okay, look, this is not the standard we want to set, right? And that's what VAR is supposed to also help with is keep the standard, supposedly. Don't come for me. I know that this doesn't always work. Supposedly, it helps keep that standard of we want these things here to be called and we want these things here to be called in a certain way too. So we can keep the levels and the standards consistent, hopefully, with the VAR reviews. And that one in particular, I don't think was a result of a replacement ref necessarily. I think that was just a holy crap, that was a bad challenge. Here's your red card. Yes. And looking back and going, oh, okay, he didn't do what I thought he did. Yeah. Because you're able to kind of see the exact placement. And those are hard to see as a referee because pinpointing the exact location on the field like that is like, or on the player like that is hard. And so I think the rescission was okay. But had it stayed a red, I don't think that Red Bulls would have. Well, I don't think anyone would have been able to be upset, but I think that it could have been someone was going to be mad either way. I think that what the result ended up being was probably a more just result than a red card.
Mm-hmm. And a couple of moments last night in the weekly nightcap, the late game out in Los Angeles, and it was. I wanted to get your thoughts on the PK of that Ricky Puig eventually would have saved by Drake Callender, and then obviously the second yellow for Marky Delgado. And yeah, so we'll see what happens there. But as we go through what happened last night, a couple of incidents, obviously for the late game. What'd you think?
Well, okay. Again,
yeah,
we're getting into replacement referees, and this is where I don't think there was anything that was particularly egregious by these referees this weekend. But I do think, again, you can see a different way that the match is being called. There seemed to be, and it obviously is also the first week of the season. And I'll remind people that referees also take time to get into the flow of the game. I don't think it was anything particular. Again, I don't think anyone could be super mad about the result that a penalty kick was given.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine,
mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I look at it and just go, yeah, you know what? I'm okay with that being called, and I hope Atlanta United gets that benefit at some point this season too.
There you go. And then the second yellow that was called on Delgado, where Busquets is behind Delgado as Delgado goes to ground and tries to keep the ball from being advanced. Delgado goes in for a slide to take up some space. Busquets sees the opportunity and squats, basically. And Delgado gets a second yellow,
yep.
And it created some high tension and drama late in Carson, California.
Second yellow cards are hard because I think people expect a different standard if a player's already on a yellow. Mm-hmm. You go, oh, well, the referee needs to know that. And I go, well, the player needs to know that. And I think that was 2 yellow cards is hard for me to argue with, right? Sometimes you can say, oh, the first one wasn't warranted or the second, but that one was, you put yourself in a weird situation. Busquets, being the, I don't know. I don't know, John, if you know this, but he's really good and really smart.
I've heard.
And I think Delgado got the worst of the smarter, craftier player. Let's just put it that way.
Yes. So you end up with a crafty situation.
Yeah.
And Busquets, knowing the environment that he's in, with the opportunity to create an advantage. That's what you're trying to do. And so you're trying to make sure that you can get an advantage late in any way possible as you're trying to get an equalizer and possibly, come out with 3 points. So, all right, now we've had our first weekend with replacement center refs.
Yes.
And I think legitimately across the board, and I spent the entire weekend watching everything from individual games to 360 and was all over the place. I can't think of anything that was totally, completely egregious and horrendous when it came to these center refs. I thought that they navigated it very, very well.
So I'm trying to find this stat, and I should have bookmarked it on Twitter because I forgot to, but
the 12-4 stat?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Basically, essentially that there's been more, there were more reversals through VAR than there have been in a normal, with normal referees. Let's put it that way. Right.
Okay.
Here's my thing. I think the first week was fine, but I also think that people think that every single game and every minute of the game, pro somehow screwed up something. And that's factually incorrect too. When you're looking for referees to do good, guess what? You're going to see that they're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking for referees to do bad, well, guess what? You're going to find that they make mistakes too. And I was watching with a keen eye, and I thought that, especially in that Atlanta United game, I felt it was a little inconsistent. Now, granted, it's hard for me to be completely unbiased because I'm watching this game wanting, good things for Atlanta United.
Right.
It did feel a little bit like the ref did a little bit like a college game. Murder was about the line that you had to get to for a foul.
I was going to say there was a lot
at least if they were wanting to foul Atlanta United, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was what frustrated me is Columbus got some fouls that I was like, but that happened to us. But again, because these are not, yes, I know, Abby, that's kind of the point, right? These are a lot of college referees who are now refereeing now. And so that's what you're getting, right? Is a game called by what the college referees would look at. And college referees allow for a lot of play to continue because to them, the ball is in possession, you're going. And this is something that even I use is because you don't want to insert yourself in a game too much.
Yeah.
And take away from the players to decide the game. However, we have to also remember as referees that players fouling another player is also the players determining that they want to, like, that's part of the game. And if they're going to be physical and foul players, even if that player continues to have the ball, the players are also telling us that this is how they're going to play, and we have to police that a little bit. I thought it was, again, a little inconsistent up and down across the league. We'll see how week 2 looks, because that's the other thing is you can have a good game one day, and then you can come back to the next game, which is a completely different animal. How do you referee? How do you manage? How do you work in that capacity from game to game is the question. And that's something that all referees try to work on is personally and within the context of the league and the competition. How are you consistent game to game? So that's what I'm curious to see for next week. I'm also curious to see if they ever once make an actual controversial decision against Miami, because we're 0-2 in that department.
Let me circle back to that in a second. I think also, and where you have the center refs that have been brought in, the replacement center refs, you have these experienced VAR that are back in the building.
Yes.
And that's another subplot to this where you might have these experienced VARs buzzing down a little more than normal to kind of keep things, I don't know if you want to say protect the collective or whatever phrase you want to use, but I think that VARs in general might be kind of overseeing a little tighter than they would otherwise because they're more experienced than the center refs that we're seeing.
Yes, I think that's exactly right. And as I mentioned earlier, VAR can help with kind of keeping those standards tight. And when you have a bunch of referees who are not trained to be MLS referees, again, it's not about do you understand the laws of the game, it's do you understand how MLS has decided we want this game to be called. The VAR officials can help with that. And also something that we haven't talked about directly is a lot of these referees, while they may have to meet the fitness standards of whatever they were refereeing before this. Yeah, that wasn't the case for MLS hiring them and pro hiring them for these matches. They were not required to pass fitness tests because obviously they're, it's unfair to ask people a month before a season to say, hey, can you pass this fitness test? And again, if you have if you referee college, you have to do some sort of level of fitness test. So these aren't unfit humans.
What?
But, I could tell that there was different movement mechanics with some of these referees. Another thing that I saw, John, a lot, actually, I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but a lot of offside flags being raised before the completion of play.
Right.
Which, again, these referees usually don't have VAR in their matches. So if they see an offside, there's always a delay to an extent because we are trying to make sure that, yes, did I get the call right? Is the player in an offside position? Was that player actually actively involved in play? But that is something that I noticed more than anything is just movement mechanics from the center referee and assistant referees putting their flags up before the phase of play has been completed.
Well, yeah, and to your point about that with the ARs, and I think that once again, it's getting you mentioned getting adjusted to the speed and the dynamics of Major League Soccer. in addition to the information that they already have on the levels that they've already been in. And so having all of these new toys for them, I think I would say that these center refs and these ARs, they're more self-reliant, I guess.
Yes, that's the best way to put it. Yeah.
And
yes.
and having that kind of assistance, if you're a center ref, having the assistance of someone in your ear saying, go to the monitor, or if you're an AR, being reminded, let the play go and be more patient and let the play finish instead of having the trigger that you're used to having in collegiate or lower division, that kinds of things. I think that once again, that to me, I will take it as a week 1 thing and see if these officials will continue to adjust the longer that they're out there.
Right. And I think that just kind of goes back to what I want to say continually about this is that the referees who were part of Pro and MLS got to that point because they put in a lot of time at the level that some of these referees are coming from, right? They've been trained to referee the game the way MLS wants to referee. That's the point of Pro and MLS coming together to have a union. Wrong word choice in this context. A collective, a group of consistent professional referees at this level. So yes, week 1, we saw some changes. That's not bad. It's not bad that if a player is a mile offside, they put their flag up because it's like, well, yeah, he was offside.
Yeah.
MLS referees have been trained. Don't do that because we have VAR. We need to make 100% sure that there was we need to make 100% sure that he was 100% offside. And so we also don't want to take away anything that could impact the match. It is going to be different. How do they change or do they change will be the question. Again, what does week 1 look like versus week 2?
And the other element, there were some other instances that I think were handled well by these replacement officials where they were having to, and this was in multiple matches, where they had to sort through multiple ideas that happened. Well, okay, if this we have to go back a step or back 2 steps and analyze what happened before something happens. It happened in the Atlanta match with the Brad Gazan chance early where Brad touches the ball outside the box, but there was an offside, I want to say, ahead of that touch. So the fact that they're able to backtrack, I think that happened a couple of times, and they handled those well also.
And that was actually a good example of the referees getting it right, but maybe taking a little while to get there.
Right.
Which I think, I know people out here don't want to hear this, but Pro would have got that right probably a lot quicker because the process would have been, a handball, but the assistant referee would have immediately probably been talking during the game like, I think he's offside, delaying, or whatever those words are that we hear all the time when we get the PGMOL stuff.
Right.
But that would have been the communication, and it would have been, I think he's offside, put the flag up. And then we take it from there. The VAR part of that would have been, is he offside? And in that case, it was very clear he was offside. It just took a little bit to make sure. And that's fine. Again, we'll take a little delay to get the right call.
Yes.
But these were a little more delayed. And I do think the Pro officials, having watched them, would have gotten it quicker, gotten it right quicker.
Yeah. Last point here for another go round with you on a Monday. And it's always great to have you here. I know that you want to you've been making some digs this morning about Messi and friends, and Busquets probably should have been sent off. Gressel was walking a tightrope at times because he was getting kind of mouthy. But
Tata was the one complaining after the match.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about the referees. Well, sir, they actually...
Yeah, because you're getting the benefit. And it's not like it's impacting the match necessarily, right? I mean, LA Galaxy got a penalty kick, and then, yes, they got that second yellow card, but it's like, okay, 2 yellow cards. They were kind of both a little controversial, but they're yellow cards. It's not like you got a straight red for something. I don't I don't want to be conspiracy theorist out here.
Oh, come on.
This is not conspiracy theory down here, but I think we all know that MLS needs Messi and friends to make the playoffs this year.
Oh, they will.
We'll see, John.
Probably won't be top 4, but I know.
No, they better. And if they don't, then they'll be heads will roll. But I think it's very clear that they're going to be getting a lot of benefits this year. And I think despite what they want to tell me about season ending injury replacements and all this stuff, I don't buy that they're salary compliant. Let's just put it that way. I think that there's some extra creative accounting going on. Maybe, Abby, I think your son needs to get a job with MLS and Miami's accounting team right now so he can really learn how to cook the books and hide some values. And I think that it's just going to be this way all season. I really do. I'm sorry. Also, when you have replacement referees who legitimately are going to be starstruck by Messi, Busquets, Alba, Suarez, they are going to be a little starstruck. They just are. And that's something that I think pro referees wouldn't be because, while obviously they got away with some things last year, they're used to seeing, Ismail Alfath has been refereeing World Cups, he's not looking at Messi going like, wow, this is the greatest player I've ever seen. It's like, yeah, he is, but I've also seen, all these other players who are really good. Look, it's going to be the narrative all season. But it is just also very apparent to me that MLS is trying to get Messi and friends to the highest potential they can get. I am just really excited for when the fact that they've already had to play 2 matches. They're in CCC. They're going to be in Open Cup. They're going to be in, once all the matches start catching up to them and Suarez, Messi, Alba, Busquets are playing several matches a week on 85-year-old legs. We'll see how they hand up.
No doubt. All right. So looking forward to episode 80 of the Soccer for US POD, where you guys get to say that that the Loons jersey is top 5. I'm looking forward to seeing this. Once again, thanks as always, my friend, catching up with us at 10 o'clock on Mondays. It is Soccer for US POD at Bartimus Prime 19. Bart, enjoy, share, and the rest of your day. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend.
Cheers, y'all.
That's Bart. And so Bart is enjoying his coffee. And so now we go for the hot tag. It's the Ricky Morton Face in Peril hot tag. Drew Dickinson, both hands on the wheel, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. You're solid. You're solid so far. Where exactly are you with both hands on the wheel?
I'm about an hour and a half out, just crossing over Long Crane Creek, the Pine Mountain exit, about to the Georgia state line. Okay. All right. I see. All right. It is a road tripping Prem and Proper the review. And obviously we've got to start with what's going on with Everton. The point deduction got reduced to 6. That takes care of the 21-22 season. Now they're to the next step, 22-23, where they and Nottingham Forest face the Inquisition one more time, and no one expects the Spanish Inquisition, sir.
No, I couldn't agree more. I feel like I beat a dead horse with the Everton thing, but I still don't see there being enough for them to hang on, even with the point deduction or even the points being added back to it. The only thing that you can really hold off for Everton right now is there's just such a gap between them and the bottom 2. I just don't see any light at the end of the tunnel for them right now. I'm not too sure what else to say about it. Once more pertinent information comes out about the situation, maybe I can comment a little bit more, but I'm just wondering when Manchester City's going to get the hammer dropped on them. They've got 1,000 charges that have still gone unspoken of.
Yeah. They got a couple. They got some stuff to play with here. All right. So Jurgen Klopp went with the kids and won the Gummy Bear Cup. And I give him full credit. He started 3 academy kids, and they had to go the extra 30, but they got the Duke on a goal by Van Dijk. So well done by Jurgen Klopp, and he's going to finish his last season with at least 1 trophy.
Yeah, the word on social media and the word around the streets where it was Klopp's kids with Van Dijk versus Chelsea's billion-dollar bottlers, and I tell you what, I'm getting to the point to where I don't feel bad for Pochettino anymore, because for him it's excuse after excuse after excuse, and I'll just go ahead and say straight up, there's no way Chelsea should have lost that game yesterday. They played one of the best games I've seen them play all season. It's just something about Klopp and the way he gets those, whether it's the kids or the players who are quote unquote injured. I don't know if you saw Darwin Nunez jump about 68 feet from the sideline banister to get over onto the field to celebrate. And that's somebody who's injured, but I tell you what, you could have fooled me. But, Klopp is he's just a different breed. And Chelsea what's the deal with Nkunku? Do you continue to bring him off the bench? I know he just came back from an injury, but you continue to bring him off the bench in such a late stage of the game to where he's got to play hero ball. You take Sterling off in the 68th minute, who's arguably your biggest threat on the offensive level. And what more can you say about Conor Gallagher? I don't expect him to be in a blue shirt next year, which is just sad if you're a Chelsea fan because he's come up with the club, since his infancy. But, just like Manchester United in the last 15 years, Chelsea's not going to get any better until they get a sure leader, a director of football, somebody who can come in with knowledge, who can try and figure out a way, a system of play with Pochettino, not just buying every good player available, signing them for 10 years, and just throwing them in the bunch and say, good luck, Mauricio, because clearly he is in over his head. And, John, I'm not too sure if there's an answer, or like Everton, I don't know where the light is at the end of the tunnel.
Maybe it's an oncoming train. Blue billion-pound bottle jobs is how Gary Neville referred to them. It was crazy with that going down this past weekend. And when you look at everything else that happened on the weekend, it's not necessarily a whole lot of surprises. But you end up with two Sheffield United players wanting to fight each other on the field. That's how bad it is right now for Chris Wilder and everybody at Bramall Lane.
I think there was a first that happened during that game against Wolves. And, let's be honest. Wolves were at home. They were in a comfortable position, but they didn't play well. That goal that they scored was fantastic. Let's give that to them. But let's back to the thing that was the first that I've never seen or ever even knew what could ever be a thing. John, they were investigating a VAR possible red card between the two Sheffield United players. Have you ever seen that before? Ever to where VAR had to go back and investigate whether or not there was a red card situation between two teammates that got into a scuffle in the middle of the game. Absolutely brilliant. I was glued to that game from the first minute to the last, just because there are so many different, types of exciting or, just straight up weird things happening. And, that's just what we say each and every week. Any team, any given day can win the Premier League or completely embarrass themselves. And right now, Sheffield United has the embarrassment championship of the season.
You ain't kidding, brother, and that's not a belt you want. Arsenal put 4 on Newcastle.
Gosh.
Man City got the 1 goal they needed to get full points against Bournemouth. Fulham over your Manchester United. What the heck happened there?
Talk about a broken record. So you watch the game and you immediately notice the things that just don't seem to fit. And for the third game in a row, whether it's his fault or not, Victor Lindelof is just on an island. He bless his heart, he legit has absolutely no idea what he's doing. And again, that's not his fault. That's just injuries and Ten Hag really having no depth. We said a couple weeks ago, was it smart to let Reguilon leave on his loan spell early because we're paying for it now? And Casemiro, him coming off, that's now Luke Shaw, Casemiro, and Lisandro Martinez, who are just 3 key factors in that United team. Whether or not those are the players that Ten Hag needs to play the system that he wants to play, which again, I have no idea what it is. Whether it's defend as a team, press as a team, whatever it is, there's about 40% of the players on the pitch for United in that starting 11 who want and who can play that style of play. 2 of them, in Lisandro Martinez and Luke Shaw, are injured. It just goes back to what I just keep saying over and over and over again. Poor recruitment, panic buys, whether it's Mason Mount or Casemiro. you watch the game, John, and United didn't start playing until the last 3 minutes of the first half, and then the last 5 minutes of the second half. And thankfully, there was 9 minutes of stoppage time that allowed them to continue to play that way. But you look at players like Bruno Fernandes, who probably spends 10 minutes a game crying and complaining because he is so far out of the elements of health and fitness. I mean, the guy has played every game of the season for the last 4 years, not to mention never missing a beat with Portugal in the last 24 months, the World Cup, the Euros, and, Marcus Rashford. What, John, does he want to play for United? Does he want to play at all? Because, you can understand where players are in a funk. They're not fully fit. They're just not quite there. And again, they're in a funk. But to not track back, to completely be as lazy as you possibly can. And, that one scene where Bruno drives down the field and shoots a 45-yard shot, spins around, throws his arm up and complains about his ankle. At least he's passionate about his fake injuries. I don't know what Marcus Rashford is passionate about. And that's very, very concerning to me. You see it all the time in professional sports where these players get paid and they go on to become greatness and really live up to that money. John, it doesn't happen in professional soccer. Professional soccer players get paid, and it's like they just stop and don't care. We saw it with Jadon Sancho. Now we're seeing it with Marcus Rashford. Is that the coach? Has he completely given up on Ten Hag? Or is that the immaturity of the player because it's becoming way too consistent? And for me, like I said a few weeks ago, it hits close to home because it's my favorite player on the planet. Now, I don't even know who he is. And it's a big, big, big concern for Ineos, who, just last week we were hearing Ten Hag say, oh, we're on the same page. But then you get these interviews with Sir Jim, who, I don't know if you've seen him, John. I am not fully convinced that he's fully convinced that Erik Ten Hag is the answer going forward. I'm not a person who wants to fire the manager in the middle of the season. Well, not in the middle of the season. There's only a few months left. If Ten Hag doesn't figure something out and step out of his comfort zone and figure out a way to fix the defensive woes, John, he's gone. He's gone, and that's, again, another restart for one of the top sporting franchises in the world, and it's very concerning. And right now, I don't know what the answer is. I really, really don't.
New owner in control of the soccer stuff at Manchester United. He's probably going to want to bring in his guy sooner or later anyway. All right, my friend, both hands on the wheel, get home safe, and we will hear from you again at Prem and Proper on the weekend.
Hey, real quick.
Yes.
Maybe you saw, maybe you heard, maybe you read Julian Nagelsmann possibly being a replacement for Erik Ten Hag. But this is the second week in a row we've heard a coach come out and say, Tuchel, don't count me out at Manchester United. Jose Mourinho, I'd love to go back to Manchester United. Not Mourinho, not Tuchel. What do you think Nagelsmann can do with this United team? Because we saw what he can do with Germany, and let's be honest, it ain't that much.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow. Yeah. That's the QOD right there. Yeah, what do you think?
Absolutely.
What could Nagelsmann do for Manchester United? All right, we'll put that on the table. We'll hear from you on the weekend, my friend. Getting ready for another weekend.
All right, everybody, have a great week. 3D coming at you on Friday.
There it is. There's Drew. So Drew, both hands on the wheel, and looking forward to his 3D and Prem and Proper. All right. You guys have some thoughts about what's going on in Major League Soccer. Let me go through the rest of the thoughts, and we'll get into what you guys are thinking about the meetings that are apparently happening in South Florida. So we'll get into that coming up in just a bit. Emilio said, some guy on the 280 character app said Sleesh's performance was the worst ever by anyone to ever wear the AU shirt. That would be incorrect. So, but once again, that's what the 280 character app is all about. All right. The story here from EFC Daily with Philippe Auclair. Auclair says, yes, there is someone interested. And he repeated what Paul Brown and him have already said in other Yosemar articles. Yes, there is another party interested, but their identity or resources he and Yosemar cannot and will not extrapolate about. Figure of £1 billion is one that most people who are familiar with the financial situation of the club will agree is a fair estimate of what an investor would have to put in the club long term to make it competitive in the Premier League. So Eau Claire warns, please do not draw any conclusions from what I wrote other than what I actually wrote. Hope it clarifies matters. So basically, Eau Claire is saying that, yes, they've heard somebody else is interested. They don't know who, and £1 billion would be something of a fair price to take care of everything that is trouble on the board for Everton financially. So they've heard things, they don't know who, and £1 billion would be the fair price. So that's where the EFFC stuff has come into play here this morning. Yeah, and the credit rating for one of the spinoffs went to very weak at 43% anchor, 43% interest rate. Wiley, good morning. I think overall Brad was good. However, he either needs to push or punch the ball further or catch it. I think overall we didn't look dangerous offensively, didn't transition well from defense to offense. Abby with a public service announcement. Does anyone have an HP printer? Takes 564 ink. Unpacking a new printer. The new one used did not work well, so she got an entirely new printer, and she's got a lot of 564 ink. So if anybody needs 564 ink for an HP printer, catch up with Abby. All right. Tom mentioned this from our friends at NYCFC Extra. And Justin Ruderman over at U90 mentioned that after the match last night with Messi and friends in LAG, Don Garber traveling to Miami to meet with 12 MLS owners over 2 days to work on how they should be thinking about roster rules going forward. Dell jumped into that conversation saying, you think you need to, you mean how to put more money in their pockets and screw over Open Cup. So 12 owners, according to Justin Ruderman, heading to Miami over a 2-day period, today and tomorrow. And I imagine the Moss brothers and David Beckham would be a part of that second day, considering they had to fly from one end of the world to the other just to get back to home base. So, question is, 12 owners, but we don't know which ones. I would imagine that it could be representative, and Amelia, will get to your comments in just a sec, that probably could be rolled hand in hand, or at least, put on the same plane as this meeting. So if you were, like I said, we don't know which 12. We don't know which 12. But if you want to look at, say, mover shaker, and those individuals that want to invest, we could probably figure out who it is. I mean, legitimately, you look at the standings and you look at philosophy and you figure out, it's going to be the Moss brothers. That's one. Maybe David Tepper, 2. Chicago, they've been spending money like nobody's business. It would be Joe Mansueto, Major Media Market. Let's see. Probably the Wilfs in Orlando. Maybe MLSE. Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, 4. Atlanta, 5. City Football Group, 6. Robert Kraft, 7. LAFC, 8. LAG, 9. Seattle, 10. Colorado, 11. Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. And so then that leaves a slot open from just staring at it. Those, to me, might be the ones that would be part and parcel to these meetings. Now, to Emilio's point, this goes back to something Eddie Q said a couple days ago. We'll get into that. Emilio says, what does everybody think about Apple allegedly nudging Garber about MLS needing to spend more? Not sure the TV provider needs to be doing that, as the league needs to be doing that. So, Where did that come from? And maybe Portland. It might be Portland. Yeah, I mean, with the owners there. Well, cheap means development for me. So it would be like Philly, Dallas, Austin, of 29, and maybe San Diego would be a part of this discussion with them coming into the league as an expansion team. So that'd be my 12th. San Diego's are going to drop $500 million on coming into the league. They're probably going to want to say in what's going on. So Eddie Q, Apple's senior VP of services, told reporters at Messi and Friends went over RSL. Messi made a huge impact on subscriptions, bringing in new viewers from Europe and South America as well as North America. No surprise. Quote, I'm excited that there are teams that are definitely pushing hard. Obviously, what Inter Miami has done is an example of that, and I think there needs to be more teams doing that, and I think there will be. At least I've seen it enough now that there's a level of excitement when anybody asks, what do I want from anybody, any of the teams? I'm like, sign some more players! Exclamation point. Don Garber speaking earlier in that day, Wednesday. This is going back to Wednesday. Said he was aware of reports suggested changes could be coming to the league's salary cap and roster rules that could make it easier to bring in big players, but said the league was aware it had to remain smart in how it approaches growth. However, he acknowledged that Messi and Friends had been able to generate what are widely expected to be record revenues from the Messi deal. Quote, if we thought every team could deliver that by signing players, I can assure you that MLS would adapt its rules to be able to deliver that. Our thinking in terms of strategic player spending, we will do whatever we need to do to grow our fan base, grow the competitiveness of our league, and to grow our revenues and ultimately the credibility and viability of MLS on a global stage. Nothing is going to stop us from doing that. We just want to be thoughtful about it. And the league has been. End quote. Well, end quote. And the league has been. That's me. Q suggested there may be different views among the 29 club owners in the league. Absolutely there are. Q. There's a lot of owners, there's a lot of teams, and so in life, when you have that many, it's always hard to move everybody in the same direction. Don does that very well, but it's a tough job, and so I try to help because I bring a sort of either different or at least another perspective on it. Garber. Season tickets are up. Our overall ticket sales are up. Our sponsorship is up. Social media and our media coverage is up. All of that is bringing global recognition to the league. Apple have not released subscription numbers for their first season of their subscription broadcast service, MLS Season Pass. Sports Business Journal reported they'd reached 2 million, with the numbers doubling after Messi signed for Miami in July. Q said he had been surprised by just how big a difference Messi had made to the numbers. Quote, I was shocked. I had no idea because I knew it would make a difference, but I thought it would take time. He just moved the needle really fast on a global perspective and the U.S. perspective. So no, I did not appreciate the power and the reach that he had. It's amazing to see. Q said Messi had also managed to attract an audience for MLS games from outside the U.S. and Canada. Quote, I won't give you the exact number, but I will tell you pre-Messi, it was very U.S. top. Post-Messi, it was changed materially because he added a significant number of subscribers from South America and from Europe, so it was a big change, end quote. That came from our friends at Soccer America. Emilio, so even if the cap went up, you still want to build as Atlanta United is doing. Of course, a big DP would be cool, but I don't want to be like Miami. Right. And that's the key. That's the key in all of this. When it comes to growth and the thought of what could be in Major League Soccer, what you've got to, once again, you've got to look and figure out what's best. And remember the deep dive that we got into, specifically with Philadelphia. And I know that that Rich at the time helped translate what's going on there. And Philadelphia is in one of those places that's in the in-betweens. So you're trying to gauge what is next. What are those next steps that you can take? And the whole thought pattern here is you've been building. Yeah, absolutely. Emilio, this is it. UBU still applies. That should be a part of the discussion because you will always have an Atlanta. Well, let's put it this way. A Dallas and a Philly that will build through their academy. Seattle will build through their academy, but Seattle and Atlanta are more similar because they will build through their academy and they will also invest in players. So you'll have teams that are going to spend, period. LAG, I was going to say LAFC, but they still need players. So LAG, Miami, Toronto, all those key markets, they want to build spending money, which is their prerogative. You have teams that are building from within, Atlanta, teams building from within, Seattle, who will also spend. Then you have the academy sides where Dallas is building and they're finally selling off players and reinvesting and finally bringing in more players as opposed to just hanging on to the money and continuing to build from within. They may have learned a progression there. And Philadelphia, who is spending to meet their philosophy instead of just bringing in players. They have a style of play. You have the academy folks who are learning that style of play. And so then you bring in the complementary players from outside that are the veterans that will help you out in that situation. So you've got several ways of doing it. But when you only raise the salary cap by 8%, 5.21 to 5.61, if I remember correctly. When you only boost your salary cap by 8%, I'd like to know how they came upon that figure, first off. But then we've been talking about it to where when do you take the governor out of the golf cart? When do you pull that golf tee out of the engine so it can just run? Are you at that point now? Some of these teams, Miami and LAFC previously, LAG now, considering they invested $21 million in two players that we got to see last night in Joseph Paintsel and Gabriel Peck, they want to spend money. They've proven they want to spend money to differing levels of success. Atlanta has proven they want to spend money. But Atlanta also builds from within. What do these 12 owners, what are these 12 meetings bring to the table? Is there any commonality of thought? The easy thing would be to sit here and say, blow up the cap, the top side, but make a floor. I mean, Colorado's investing for the first time ever in modern memory. Stefan, Mihailovic, etc. You're spending money. I mean, Georgi Mihailovic was a $3 million pickup for Colorado. That's like, taking the, it's like Charlize Theron in the Italian Job, figuring out the combination on the safe and opening the door and you see all the bricks of gold. That's that moment. That's $3 million investment in Georgi Mihailovic for Colorado. That's what that is to them. But you need to do this earlier. Tom should have done it in the offseason. But the fact that you're having it now, as we process this information, now what? Fourth DP? Honestly, if you did a fourth DP didn't have a top end, but you had a floor. Yeah, there's still the international. There are international spots. There probably should be an increase there. Or make an allowance of, okay, if you eliminate the international spot, then that way you blow up the cap figure, and you make special allowances for those teams that want to build from within. Give them some kind of, changes to the cap. There are international spots, yes. So come up with a floor, add a fourth DP, but raise your cap by more than 8%. Because honestly, 5.21 to 5.61, that's the equivalent of 2 U22s on your books. That's that equivalency. Not that you would have those spots available, but I'm just using that as a marker. 200,000, 200,000, 400,000, that's your boost in your cap allegedly. It's the equivalent of adding 2 U22s. So you got to make it easier. And the biggest element, I think, in this, Eddie Q from Apple, sign more players. Yeah, but once again, you have to make the allowances to do that. You want to sign more players, meaning more of the glitzy glamoury folks. Once again, you've got to figure out how to adjust your cap to more than just an 8%. You got to figure out how to add a DP. I would still make allowances somehow for clubs that want to build from within. Special cap dispensation or whatever you want to call it. Folks that want to build with younger players. But I don't want to have owners who want to invest and can't, if that makes any sense. So these 12 owners over the next 2 days in Miami, I know that some of them are going to sit there and say, blow it all up. I don't know if that's the answer. Yes, like we mentioned with Philadelphia when we went into the deep dive. When it comes to a team like that, or when it comes to a smaller market team, smaller budget team, say San Jose, like a John Fisher, for example. Let's talk about San Jose for a second. John Fisher is dealing with so many issues right now with the Oakland A's. I don't know if he will necessarily be devoting the time and attention he needs for the Earthquakes to continue to thrive. So the Earthquakes are in a building that, they're in a barn. It's a great new stadium. It's a new stadium, even though it's next to the airport in San Jose. So what kind of attention does John Fisher give to San Jose in this situation? I would guarantee you that because of soccer being what it is, as a growth industry, we went through the Forbes numbers where clubs are having 30% increase in the value of their franchises, that someone would look at that product, see that John Fisher is more preoccupied with what's going on with Oakland and trying to get them to Las Vegas than he would be devoting resources to San Jose and want to take them off his hands. And then John Fisher could look at that money and go, okay, I can reinvest it and do whatever, move him to Sacramento for a couple of years, help build the stadium, whatever. You will have those situations. There will be folks who will want to buy. And they won't be 777 or 777RE and have questionable bond numbers and bond designations. You've got to be incremental about it. You've got to add some things. But I know that some owners of those 12 will sit there and go, let's take the governor out of the golf cart and go. For a league that has been as watchful on itself as Major League Soccer has been ever since day one, you can't just go fully 180 degrees because it goes against type. Major League Soccer has succeeded over time because it has been an incremental growth process, but this is a crucial time for the league. You brought in Lionel Messi. What do you do for an encore? You've got to be thinking now about what to do when Messi and friends are gone. You've got him. What happens when he goes? Who's next? Lewandowski? Who? Who will sustain your growth? What will sustain your growth going forward? And I would hope that that's a part of the discussion that's going on in Miami over the next 2 days. What will sustain this growth curve? What will continue to make your advertisers happy, your TV partner happy, and the league and all of its partners happy? How will you continue to grow? These 12 owners, I'm sure, will have 12 different opinions. And you've got to figure out a midpoint. You've got to be prudent, but at the same time, you've got to understand that you're at a crucial part of the growth of the sport in this country. Like I said, we've hashed it out on the show a lot. I think we've come up with some prudent ideas. But how do you maintain the growth that you've astronomically gotten by bringing in Lionel Messi? Who could sustain that? Who would be the next individual to sustain that kind of growth? Mbappe? Bellingham? Who? How do you ride the momentum of Messi into 25, 26, and 27 and come out the other side? These next 2 days in Miami will be very, very interesting to find out what those answers are. Sorry, the fourth has held up numbers. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and what to do before we go. Tomorrow we'll get into more of the other matches from Major League Soccer and all the events that happened from weekend number 1. And there was some stuff that happened. So we'll get into all of that, whatever's on your mind, anything else with Atlanta United that I might have forgotten. Connor Gallagher says he wants to stay at Stamford Bridge. 18 months left on his deal linked with a move to Spurs. Arsenal monitoring Evan Ferguson from Brighton, looking for ways to bolster their attack in the summer. Victor Osimhen could be an option for Arsenal. Face competition from Chelsea and PSG. Ajax keeper Deont Ramage also on Arsenal's radar, with the Germany U20 being lined up as a possible replacement if Aaron Ramsdale goes. Jack Harrison wants to turn his loan move from Leeds to Everton into a permanent, even if Leeds is promoted back to the Prem. Manchester United's co-owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants a new pay structure introduced at the club. Salaries of players being more dependent on success. Don't know if that's going to work well. That's the other thing about Major League Soccer. You've got to be more transparent about your rules and your salary structure. Above all else, bring in the casual fan so they can understand what's going on. All of this stuff with all of the different AMs, all the different spending, all the different slots, and we're left guessing as to how it all fits together. We wouldn't be having the black helicopter conversations about Messi and friends and LAFC if there was more transparency when it came to the salary structure and the cap. Who's making what? How does it apply? Those kinds of things. Like I said, we could do trade trackers all day long when it comes to the NBA. NBA trade deadline day, we can do hypothetical trades on trade trackers, and we can be satisfied and sit there and go, yeah, this will work. Can't do that with Major League Soccer. We're left guessing a lot of the time when it comes to the salaries and the impacts it has on each of the clubs. Sure, you can play within the rules of engagement, but if the fans don't know the rules of engagement, you're losing that percentage of investment by the fans. United's also going to target a striker right back, a right-sided center back. Anthony Martial set to leave Manchester United at the end of the season as a free. Club opted against triggering the one-year extension. Juve set an asking price of £51 million for Arsenal target Kenan Yildiz. 18-year-old striker's just 15 appearances for the club since joining from Bayern in 22. Three-letter paper. Sergio Aguero could make a return to football. His cardiologist says he could now play again. Retired in December 2021 when he suffered cardiac arrhythmia playing for Barca. And Endrick set to join Real Madrid when he turns 18 in July. Palmeiras are trying to keep him until December. So that's your gossip, rumor, and innuendo. What to watch and where to watch it. Serie A at 12:30, CBS Sports Network, Roma and Torino. Monday Night Football from the Premier League, West Ham and Brentford at 3 o'clock on USA. ESPN Deportes, Girona Rayo Vallecano at 3. We mentioned the W Gold Cup tonight on Deportes. Fox Deportes is in match number 2 of a doubleheader on the league that we neither condone nor endorse nor cover. Universo is simulcasting the Premier League. On the Plus, you want a Cinderella story? Maidstone United, 5th round of the FA Cup going up against Coventry City. That's at 2:30. John Nason's probably keeping his head low. La Liga at 3. W Gold Cup simulcast on the Plus. Golazo Network has Argentina, Dominican Republic at 7. Copa de la Liga in Argentina, 5, 5:30, 7:30, 7:45. Defensa y Justicia is on at 5. Vélez Sarsfield's on at 7:30. Central Córdoba, Atletico Tucumán at 7:45. Serie A doubleheader, 12:30 and 2:45 on Paramount Plus. Roma, Torino, Fiorentina, Lazio, and the W Gold Cup doubleheader, 7 and 10:15. If you truly want to be a degenerate and watch a lot of soccer in a lot of other places, BN, Liga 1 Max, CDO, For the Fans, TSA, Nuestra Tele, Gold TV, pick it up at Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here. And you can really watch soccer from all corners of the planet. Helps out the network, helps out Fanati's all over the place. So fntz.co/soccer down here, and you can really watch more soccer from around the planet. I have not talked about Gary Smith's Open Cup quote where he said he really couldn't say anything and didn't know anything. And we're still a ways from that. Emilio doesn't think astronomical growth is a good thing because of unsustainability. Yeah, you can't keep the percentages up. For MLS, for the longest time, slow and steady won the race. Then you had Messi come in with this new TV deal. Got this big spike. What do you do to maintain? Alex, the irony here is that there's probably more salary transparency in MLS than any other league because they're published. Right. But how it fits within the structure of everything is what's going on. Dell for fantasy has Ariella and Tony. Hard to watch one with the other. Dell, there's no such thing as being too much. Thanks for everybody hanging out today. Oh, before we go, once again, one more, a couple things. Our friends at Johnson Gainesville, once again, it was great to catch up with them and be up there for the Hall County, Whitfield County Football Classic on Friday. It's great to be up there. Maddie and I calling Northwest Whitfield, East Hall, and Johnson Gainesville and Dalton. Johnson Gainesville's 31-match unbeaten string snapped by Dalton in a 2-1 win. Tomorrow we will be in Dalton for the Tuesday night throwdown doubleheader, Northwest Whitfield and Dalton, boys and girls, 5:30, 7:30. We will be in Dalton for those matches tomorrow night on the network. And we have effectively flexed our games on Friday, and we will let you know where we're going to be on Friday when we end up chasing after the schools. Update on the Ben Pierman interview, still chasing. We're trying to catch as many of them before the season starts as possible here in the footprint, though. Trust me, we are chasing them all. Also on the board, once again, reminder of this. It's the Marshall Island scarf. Once again, remember, $32. You're helping out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation build from scratch. They will be in the country this week. They're touring Northwest Arkansas. They will be there. We are efforting having Matt Webb and technical director Lloyd Hours on the show on Thursday. It's going to be a slow day for them. Hopefully we can get them on before we catch up with Nico on Thursday, who is back from Colombia and vacation. But once again, you can email me, DM me, Venmo it to me, 32. You can have the Abstermobile deliver it to you, or if you want me to mail it to you, it's an extra $5 in the postal service. Ropes has his. As I said, when you see Ropes should be modeling it 24/7. But trying to help out, grow the game from scratch, and our friends at the Marshall Islands. So they'll be over here this week, checking out things in Northwest Arkansas, trying to come back again in October. These are the kinds of things that you will help. The building of the program from scratch. And there's your scarf. Once again, 32. DM me. You can Venmo the money to me. I'll ship it to you, or you can have Abby deliver it. Once again, that's the scarf. And that is part of the scarf campaign that's made Maddie famous as an international model. So I think that's it. We're catching up with Omar Hernandez from Chattanooga Red Wolves, the Dalton High grad, and he signed a contract out of Mercer. So he'll be with them in USL League One this year. So we're catching up with him this afternoon. And let's see. Tyler Pilgrim joining us Wednesday. Dylan Butler joining us Wednesday. Once again, efforting the Marshall Islands on Thursday. Nico on Thursday. And we've got friends at Beyond Goals and Weekend Whip Around on Friday. And that is the week. But obviously, there's a lot going on. Tomorrow, we'll get more in-depth in Major League Soccer, anything else going on, all the news of the day, and get you ready for Northwest Whitfield and Dalton at 2:30. So, busy week. Thanks for hanging out with us once again here on SDH for Maddie, for Abe, for Drew, for Bart, for Jarrett. I'm just John. See, Mondays are full. Mondays are full. Mondays are fun, and they fly. That's what it's all about. Thanks for hanging out with us for another round of SDH. We'll be back with you again 9:05 tomorrow morning, going over all the things. That's what they call it, all the things. Mucha Platiel, play it safe. See you in a little under 22 hours. And since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9:05.